going into every excursion, they read us the rules several times. We have to hold our hand up, agree to the rules, and it's being recorded. So we know at the beginning of every excursion that, the rules are clear. Like this one, you can't, look at other people's podiums. If you felt comfortable to share turn your tiles over, you could. I didn't think about turning my tiles over because I knew like nobody could deliberately walk over there and look. It was against the rules. So it was actually tiles. You had to unscrew, like you had to screw at the top and the bottom, unscrew each tile, which took a little bit to get them correct. So I didn't worry about turning my tiles over because I knew, and it was an option if we wanted to make us feel comfortable, but I also knew that we couldn't deliberately walk over and look at other people's answers. So I thought my answer was probably safe. I just wanted to get to the maze as fast as possible. So I didn't know. I tried to make an alliance with Aron early on. I was working with Nick from day one, day one, day two. And so when I tried to go up to Aron and make an alliance, I'm like, hey, like pull you to the side, me and you. He wasn't serious about working with me. And I really didn't understand why, because I'm like, you and I would be probably the most equally matched. Like each of us have a decent chance of winning because all these other people are so fit and buff and big muscles. And then when he went over and told Nick and Rob early on, like Amy just came over there and tried to work with me and she threw your name out. Nick came back and told me that was kind of a trap to see if Aron was going to go say something to Nick or not, because we thought about trying to pull Aron in on our side and getting him away from Rob. So I didn't think I could trust Aron totally, but I knew as the game went on that he had to be realizing if it's him and Rob in final two, it's very likely that Rob could beat him in the final two. So I tried, as the season went on, I tried to pull him aside again and be like, Aron, listen, like, do you really think if it's y'all two in the final that you can beat him? He was like, no, I don't. And I was like, okay, like open your eyes. So I tried to make it reiterate to him why, but the fact that he didn't take the bait the first time, I just really thought he was probably going to just clinch onto Rob really tight, like he did. And then after the jet ski challenge, when Rob was back and then I was back second, and I had the highest case. I thought that the highest case probably would have some kind of, I didn't know if I would be immune or not because it was so far in the game, but I thought I may have a say on who plays the banker or who's the lowest numbers. So while everybody else was out there, I tried to, throw a bone to Rob and just be like, listen, I know Aron's your number, because I knew numbers were against him at this point because we still had me, Steph, Jordan, and then it was just Rob and Aron. So it's 3 versus 2 essentially. I didn't really know where Jordan's head was at, but I knew that she did not want to play Rob in the end. So I kind of felt like we had her on our side for the time being. So when it came down to it, and I had to show my cards, and I had to pick who played the banker, I ended up going with Aron to play the banker because I thought if he loses, now it's 3 against 1, 3 girls versus Rob. If Aron wins, he might take Steph out, but he also knows this far in the game that he cannot beat Rob in the final. So he actually may, as a strategic player, take Rob out. So I felt like making somewhat of an alliance or a deal with both of them, I could kind of maneuver it, as where the game went. So when it was my turn to pick who played the banker, I picked Aron to play. Aron lost and went home. So that would just put Rob essentially down a person. So it's 3 versus 1 because all 3 of us girls know he's a great game player. He's probably the best reality player I'll see in my lifetime. So we knew then it's 3 versus 1. I never truly knew where Jordan stood. When we would, night outs, have a meeting or stay up late to talk, she really didn't, give a lot of input. She really didn't have a lot to add. So I kind of did have my eyes on her. And then the night at the picnic table, when Aron and I kind of had a little scuffle, it didn't show Aron at Temple what he said to me, which is why I reacted and tried to have a conversation with him that night at the picnic table. But when someone said we should probably go check on Aron, and Jordan was the first one to get up to go check on him, I kind of was like, not that someone didn't need to check on him, because Aron's a great person. I love him in real life. He's so great. but when she was the first one to hop up and volunteer, I kind of started, my intuition is so strong and I've always trusted it. So I'm like, I knew right then Jordan was playing both sides. But at that point, I really didn't care if she was playing both sides or not, because at the end of the day, um, I feel like Rob knew she was kind of floating in the middle, which worked for her tremendously. So she never really had a target on her back. And then word got back to me that Rob was like, okay, yeah, Jordan's kind of just floating along. So I knew Rob could turn could cut anybody in an instant, because it's a game and it's just how you play. And I knew that Rob would much rather face me or Aron in final two versus Jordan or Nick or Steph, because I feel like they're a lot more physically fit than we are. So I never really cared what side Jordan was on, because I felt like if it came down to it, Rob would probably choose to play me over Jordan, just because I would probably be easier to beat. We had no idea. And we every time we walked into an excursion, that was our first time seeing it, knowing what it was. I just kind of tried to base my who I would rather face on the final, because most challenges were a lot were physical, a lot of running. Snakes were a factor, swimming, blowing dynamite up. I kind of knew that I knew Steph was extremely scared of heights. I knew she was not messing with those snakes. I knew Aron and I are probably the same when it came to like physical strength. So I kind of tried to look back on previous excursions to try to gauge what the future excursions would look like. So that's kind of how I just measured myself up. I knew mentally I had studied, I had memorized everything I could about everything, the name of every excursion, what order people went home. So if I knew if it came down to a mental comp, that I would be very confident myself. But then if it did come down to a physical comp, I would have much rather went against Aron or Steph versus Jordan, Rob, Nick, Dawson, because obviously, they're incredibly strong.